Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome back to another live Bundesliga show. Of course, brought to you by Over the Bar, as always. And with us tonight, myself, Rory Petre, and of course, Mark Broadhurst over in Nuremberg. A little bit more of a locked-up Nuremberg, however, compared to sunny Sheffield at the moment. Things are looking a bit more rosy in England than in Germany right now. Poor old Mark's a bit locked up, aren't you?
Yeah. I can see you've got the sun as well in the background. You know, it's pitch black here, so it's all going on in the UK at the moment. You know, you've got the lockdown being eased, and everything's going well there. You know,
yeah. Pub gardens, everything. Yeah, it's going a lot better. I'm sure things will probably end up going down the pan again, but we'll see. But yeah. Obviously, this is usually in our Thursday night slot we do our prediction show, and we've done a bit of Q&A as well in the past last week, which went down really well actually. But for once, there was actually a midweek program in the Bundesliga, so that was Matchday 30 that we've just had. So that was played over Tuesday and Wednesday. Obviously, they're trying to finish the season in kind of good timing, and they've got games to fit in. So obviously, we're going to be going over that. So we're doing a featured for tonight. There was 8 games, full set fixtures, obviously apart from Hertha, who still aren't playing because of their COVID outbreak. So we'll go over those games, and then we'll quickly go through our predictions for the weekend. So it's very busy at the moment for myself, Mark, and all the Bundesliga teams. So yeah, without further ado, obviously normally we would go straight over to Mark to do an anagram, but no anagram or hero and zero this week. So yeah, pretty much concentrating on football to make sure the show doesn't go on for hours upon hours, and which I'm sure everyone would love that to happen. But we've got to let you get on with your lives. So yeah, Mark, do you want to introduce the featured four and get us going?
Yeah, so first let's just look at the results, obviously, from the midweek games as well. So yeah, on the Tuesday night, we had a 2-1 win for FC Cologne over Leipzig, a shock result there. We had Bielefeld getting a 1-0 win over now relegated Schalke. We had FC Bayern Munich with a 2-0 win over Bayer Leverkusen. We had Frankfurt with another 2-0 win over Augsburg. Then moving on to Wednesday night, another 2-0 win. Home win for Dortmund over FC Union Berlin. Then we had a come-from-behind win for Hoffenheim, coming from 2-0 down to win 3-2 over Gladbach. Then we had Wolfsburg getting back to winning ways after 2 defeats. We had them getting a 3-1 win at Stuttgart. And then the big game at the bottom, Mainz getting another win with a narrow 1-0 win away against fast-dropping Werder Bremen. So let's go on to our featured four quickly. So obviously, again, we always do our featured four, but this week we're going to go through it a little bit quicker than what we normally would. So yeah, let's start with what was the game of the weekend, the midweek, I should say. It wasn't perhaps the most important game of the week by any means, but it was indeed the Hoffenheim versus Mönchengladbach game, which ended, as you can see on the screen, it was a 3-2 win for the home side. I mean, this one was a strange match, really, with Gladbach going 2-0 ahead, very, very well in the first half, with 2 brilliant assists from Marcus Thuram for Plea, and then Lazaro, who hasn't done very much since he joined on loan from Inter Milan. But then in the second half, Rory, Hoffenheim came roaring back, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Obviously, with a lot of thanks to Andre Kramaric. Obviously, he was there on hand a couple of times from actually 2 really good assists from Kaderabek. So he some really nice crosses, actually, especially for Bebu's equalising goal. Absolutely delicious whip in. And I thought, yeah, obviously Kramaric was centred to it. Bebu obviously getting on the end of it. Obviously, as I mentioned, Kaderabek was a nice assist. Baumgartner as well. What an exciting player he is. So all those players kind of came together to produce what might say obviously is a bit of a shock comeback, but certainly in the circumstances, given the fact that Hoffenheim don't have an awful lot to play for, 2-0 down at half time. To be fair, I mean, I would have kind of accepted them just kind of seeing the game out and losing 2-0 and not, damage the reputation. So fair play to them for having the want and the desire to go out and turn around the game and do it really quickly, actually, because it was 3-2 by 65 minutes, I think it was. So they still had to see out a lot of the game anyway. So yeah, it was an interesting game. That is obviously a big dent in terms of Gladbach's hopes for getting back into that top 6. Obviously, it's done them no favours in terms of catching Leverkusen, because Leverkusen, of course, did lose to Munich in a very tough game for them, so they could have really cashed in. It was looking good for them. As you mentioned, some fine work from Marcus Thuram, seeing the best of him again in kind of still fits and bursts, but his form is certainly starting to stabilise again, which is great for Gladbach. But yeah, big blow for, say, Marco Rosa's team. It's obviously not really his team anymore. So obviously it will be Adi Hütter's team eventually. But yeah, interesting game. It's the sort of Hoffenheim second half performance that I really wanted to see all season, actually, from them. It's a shame that we haven't seen that from them all season long, because otherwise they definitely would have been flirting around the top 6. They have got plenty of attacking talent, and obviously when it comes together, it looks really good. Obviously, Bebu did have a few chances. We know he's not the most clinical of strikers. He hit the post, I think, in the first half early on from a chance that he did create himself, in fairness to him. But again, so it's just that over-reliance perhaps on Kramaric that's held them back a little bit. But yeah, it was an exciting game.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Kramaric now 16 league goals for the season in a struggling, well, I wouldn't say a struggling side, but a team that's underperformed for long parts of the season. So you've got to give him some credit. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few teams perhaps kind of circle around for him, because he's been brilliant again this season with 16 goals, despite the fact that Hoffenheim have underperformed for long parts of the season. So yeah, so let's move on to the next game, which was a much bigger game, really, especially in the top 4 race. It was indeed Stuttgart 1, Wolfsburg 3. I mean, this game was probably a lot closer than what it looked like on the scoreboard, because, I mean, Stuttgart played their part in a really entertaining match here, actually. I mean, obviously, the first goal went in pretty early from Schlager, who I've been really, really impressed with this season, especially of late. Like, he didn't start, actually, the first few games of the season, but he's been fantastic recently, the Austrian international. Then, obviously, the big talking point was Joshua Brooks was penalised for a handball, and it was a penalty to Stuttgart. But then it was that man who we've been criticising the last 2 weeks, Casteels, comes back to prove us wrong. The kind of loser of the week, really, last week with over the bar. And yeah, he saved the penalty, and then obviously the Forster blasted over the rebound as well, when he probably should have done better. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously after that, Wolfsburg went and scored a second goal, which was more of a classic Wolfsburg goal, wasn't it? With Wout Weghorst with a thumping header for his 20th league goal of the season. A fantastic season for him so far. Then what did you make of the second half of that one, Rory?
Well, yeah, it was interesting because unfortunately what we've seen for a large proportion of the second half of the season is actually a very different Stuttgart team. Obviously, they've had to learn to live without the likes of Nico Gonzalez for quite a long time. He's been injured for a large proportion of the second half of the season. Obviously, they found something in the shape of Kalajdzic and obviously Bjorn Sousa, and they've got a lot of goals that way. They haven't been as free-flowing going forward. Castro, of course, hasn't really played as much. Obviously, unfortunately, his contract isn't being extended either. Obviously, he did get himself a consolation goal in this game, which is great. But it has been a bit of a different Stuttgart team. Of course, Silas as well has picked up a nasty injury. Yeah. So there's more of a weight on Koulibaly, who's a real youngster. Obviously, Silas isn't an old player by any means. I think he's around the early 20 marks. And Koulibaly is a very fresh and talented player, but he was a bit wasteful in this game, especially actually. As was Kalajdzic, who's obviously incredibly clinical with his head, but less so on this occasion with his feet. And you rightly said, 3-1 does look like a comfortable scoreline, but I think Cohen Casteels, after coming in for a bit of criticism over the weekend does deserve a lot of credit for the way he's bounced back. Not only does he save the penalty at obviously a very crucial moment, he made a lot of crucial saves during the match. Actually, a couple of one-on-one presentable chances fell, obviously, as I mentioned, for Kalajdzic and Koulibaly. So yeah, he stood up well to that. Obviously, it was a bit of a debatable penalty anyway, as you mentioned, Mark.
Yeah.
But incredibly important win for Wolfsburg. Obviously, with Dortmund breathing down their necks and starting to hit a bit of form. Frankfurt winning the night before. So they would have been feeling the pressure. Not an easy place to go, especially this season, or certainly a difficult opponent. Impressive performance. I thought they pressed well. They won the ball off Stuttgart high quite a lot. And as you mentioned, the likes of Schlager doing that press. They won the ball high for that second goal. Great cross in, and then the Weghorst diving header, like you said, was a great way to finish. So, yeah, impressive performance. Exciting game to watch, and two teams that I really enjoy to watch. So well done to Wolfsburg for another big step forward. They've got another 4 cup finals, if you want to say that, in terms of getting themselves top 4 finish. So well done to them for a big 3 points.
Yeah, and obviously with the game against Dortmund at the weekend, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but I mean, that really is a huge game, isn't it? Yeah. But let's talk about a few more huge games. I mean, no more than obviously FC Cologne's massive shock win over Leipzig. I mean, nobody expected this one coming, did they? I mean, obviously it's Funko, the new manager, obviously took over his first game against Leverkusen at the weekend, which ended in a pretty unlucky 3-0 defeat, I would say. They probably deserved to lose that game, but not by 3-0. Then, obviously, I mean, coming into this game, the former Dusseldorf manager, he was very, very highly rated at Dusseldorf, by the way. But I know a couple of Dusseldorf fans, and they really, really like Funko. He's kind of old school. He's a very charismatic manager. But, I mean, it looks as though they could have got themselves a good deal there, actually getting him into the last few games of the season and potentially moving forward as well. But what did you make of this one, Rory? A massive win for FC Cologne, which breathes new life into their beleaguered season now.
Yeah, stunning result and very impressive performance. Naturally, I think RB started the game with a decent amount of control and looked to try and get ahead, but obviously that didn't quite come to pass. There were chances, I think, for Sorloth and indeed Nkunku. But yeah, obviously they're able to hold on, and obviously in the last show we talked about we're obviously with regards to this thing about Hertha not playing, and we were saying, if Cologne can pick up 4 points in the period of time that Hertha don't play, then the pressure really, really ramps up, and it looks terrible for Hertha. And I mean, first game against RB, you think it's a bit of a free shot, and you assume that they're not going to get from it. And they're 3 from 3 points, and what a big victory that is. Obviously, it does, as you said, breathe life into them. So they're looking a lot closer now. They're just, they're level on points with Hertha Berlin, with 4 games to go. Can they just start to now really ramp up the pressure? Can they get a point in the next game and then, swap around with Hertha and just watch Hertha basically sweat on it? But with regards to the game, obviously we've kind of been talking about how they've not really been able to put much forward as an attacking force, so to speak, and seem to have been quite reliant on their captain, who's been trying to bail them out as much as they can. Lo and behold, does the job himself. So obviously he got himself a free header, basically to make it 1-0 from not very far out, to be fair. And especially after being pegged back as well to make it 1-1, I think it was Haidara with the goal to make it 1-1. You do kind of expect then RB to regain control and start to look a bit more relaxed and go back and win the game probably. But no, Cologne, again came back, looked strong, and it was captain fantastic again. And the ironic thing is that it happened so quickly. It was about 100 seconds after the equaliser, I think it was. So crazy scenes, really, really shocking, you would think, from a RB perspective to get yourself level and then concede so quickly after it. So that is quite shocking, really, from a team that was in the title race. So yeah, huge win, and it's it's game on now for Cologne, and obviously we know the title race is firmly dead.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to mention as well about Hertha Berlin. I mean, they must be having nightmares sitting on the couch watching this unfold, because I think before the postponed games, they'd have been quietly confident that things were going okay and that they've managed to kind of dig themselves out of it. But now, I mean, to say that they're in trouble is an understatement now. I mean, they're in huge trouble. I mean, they could be bottom two. Obviously, with Cologne going to Augsburg tomorrow night, I mean, that's a game that they can get at least a point out of realistically. So we're going to have to see what happens, but it's going to be an interesting last 4 rounds for sure at the bottom of the league. Okay, let's move on to the last of our featured 4 games, which was, we thought we had to include them given that they pretty much have the title wrapped up now with a 10-point lead with only 4 games to go. So they would wrap up the title with a win, is of course Bayern Munich, who secured a pretty comfortable 2-0 home win over Bayer Leverkusen. I mean, this was a game where Bayern just flew out of the blocks, didn't they? I mean, I thought the first goal was a really good goal, actually. I mean, Alaba floated a really good ball in from Müller, who forced an excellent save from the Leverkusen keeper. And then it was that man again, Choupo-Moting. I'm starting to question whether Lewandowski's really that good. Maybe it's just being number 9 for Bayern. It's just like, he just guarantees goals, He took it on his chest and just smashed in the rebound, didn't he? I mean, it looks like he didn't even celebrate, He's starting to he's turning into Lewandowski now, really, He's got the arrogance, he's got the swagger,
He's got the aura, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Man United will be signing him up next, I think, to replace Cavani.
Well, who knows what we'll end up doing, God knows. But yeah, it was an impressive first half performance from Bayern. Yeah, as you said, they came out of the blocks. They knew that if they could get out ahead early doors, that they could effectively kill the game and obviously then kind of kill the title race effectively and do themselves a favour. They didn't want to leave it late and have to mess around too much with the Leverkusen side that have showed a bit of form in the last 3 to 4 games, give or take. But yeah, Choupo-Moting, the man again. As you mentioned, it was quite a nice goal that he took. Kimmich was just his goal was just being on hand, basically in the right place at the right time. I think it was a cross poorly dealt with by maybe Tapsoba. I apologise if it wasn't him. Who didn't really get rid of the cross effectively well. And yeah, 2-0 after I think was it 13 minutes, give or take. So that kills the game as a contest. Really, obviously we know that Bayern have been pretty leaky defensively, but showed a decent amount of composure to hold off Leverkusen. A few chances where I think Alphonso Davies played Patrick Schick onside, but it's a very tame effort from the striker. Obviously, a striker with not an awful lot of inner belief at the moment, which is a shame because he and Alario were both firing up to about halfway this season. So yeah, obviously that's kind of turned on his head and can obviously happen with strikers. But yeah, Bayern kind of were able to see themselves through the rest of the game. There was an Alaba free kick that was really well saved actually as well by the Leverkusen keeper. Choupo-Moting also did score, but I think he was narrowly offside as well, and a few kind of half chances. Amiri did have a decent effort saved from Neuer later on as well, but comfortable win for the impending champions. So they're obviously they're 10 points clear, aren't they, with 4 to go. So can have things wrapped up. This match day, is that right? So if they win, they'll be 10 points with 3 to go. Yeah. So we may well be presenting them with their crown on Sunday evening. Could well be the case, but they've been the best team in Germany, haven't they? Let's face it. Teams have kind of showed form and showed potential all season. Leverkusen, team in question, almost top at Christmas, but yeah, Bayern, the most consistent beast in this league, and they deserve it. Let's be frankly honest. with a weakened defence, which they're, by the looks of it, they are addressing with the signing of Upamecano. They look like they're obviously going to be strong for next season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's swiftly go through the other 4 games as well before we get onto the predictions, which is obviously the main part of our show this week. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, no better place to start than obviously the 1-0 win for Bielefeld over Schalke, which means that Schalke are relegated for the first time in 33 years to the Zweite Bundesliga. But yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, that was something that the writing was on the proverbial wall for a long time with that. But I think for me, the biggest story in this game is it's another win for Bielefeld. So they've taken 8 points from the last 4 games now to sensationally go up to 30 points and 4 points clear of not only the bottom 2, but also the bottom 3, obviously as a result of Hertha Berlin still having 2 games in hand. But I mean, it's been a fairy tale run really since Frank Kramer took over, Rory.
It has been indeed, yeah. They've done a very, very good job. I think if they'd been in this position come the start, if you'd offered them this at the start of the season, I'm sure they would have chomped off your hand for it for sure. They've done a really, really good job. They've always been in games. They've always been in contests. Their defence has done an outstanding job, I think, all season. And even though the longer this game went on as 0-0, obviously up to about half time, and obviously the goal did come fairly soon after the second half, you kind of just felt that it was inevitable. And it was the player who's not had the best of seasons, has probably struggled at Bundesliga level in the shape of Klose or Kloss. Obviously, he gets the ball in midfield after they win the ball high up it on a decent press against Schalke, and he's able to turn into space and hit a really clean effort. And when I saw it first time, I was like, wow, fair play, that's a cracking hit. But in fairness, I think the keeper Farman doesn't actually cover himself in glory. It kind of goes through him a bit. So it's a good hit, but again, I think the keeper could have done better on another day. But it was actually a mixed bag for the captain of Bielefeld, because he did have a penalty that was obviously was saved. And he did put the ball in the back of the net eventually, but he was in an offside position as Doan recovered the situation. So that could have been crucial at the end of the day, if Schalke had managed to come back. And I think their season was summed up by Kolasinac blazing over in the last minute. Just to touch on Schalke, obviously, I think it's the 4th time in their history they've been relegated. So obviously, a real big shock to the system. They'll be missed in the Bundesliga. This particular set of players and team won't be missed because they haven't offered anything to the Bundesliga apart from defensive howlers week in, week out. I mean, unfortunately, bye-bye Schalke, bye-bye to the Revier Derby for a season or 2. We'll obviously certainly keep a close eye on how they get on in Zweite Bundesliga next season. But obviously such a big club of big stature. We've seen how Hamburg have struggled as well and are almost on the brink of throwing that away again this season, Hamburg. Hopefully both teams will see in the Bundesliga in due course. But who knows when we might next see Schalke. Yeah,
absolutely. I echo your sentiments as well on Schalke. I mean, it's a massive club that regularly attract more than 60,000 into their stadium, the Gelsenkirchen Arena. I mean, it's one of the best followed clubs in Germany. It's a really big loss. I know a lot of neutral fans are also kind of lamenting the loss of Schalke as well. I think it's a general sentiment throughout Germany that the Bundesliga needs Schalke. I mean, they're a huge club. You could probably compare them to someone like Newcastle, perhaps, in England. I mean, they've not had very much success, but they still have a really, really good fan base. And, they definitely wouldn't be the kind of club that sell out to the Super League, let's just say.
I was about to say, they probably need the Super League, don't they?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You never know. Maybe if it's kind of revamped one day, they'll be involved. Who knows? But, no, I know that the Schalke unit would not accept that, very much like Dortmund as well. And they're very much a club of the purists, and I'll definitely miss them. Hopefully we'll see them back for 2022-23. I hope so anyway. But anyway, goodbye Schalke. Well done Bielefeld, who have a great chance of staying up now. So let's move on to the next one, which was obviously a really, really big win for Frankfurt. I mean, obviously, we've talked a lot about the Adi Hütter situation. Obviously, they're going to Gladbach at the end of the season. They had a horrible 4-0 defeat to Gladbach. And to be honest, the way I saw this game, Rory, I wasn't really that impressed with the performance of Frankfurt. Despite the fact that they won, I was still a little bit worried going forward because, I mean, Augsburg had so many chances in this game. I think they missed 4 chances at 0-0. I mean, and then for me, I mean, Hinteregger has to get a red card, really, for that tackle. I don't know if you saw that one, Rory, but he had a horror challenge on I think it was a midfielder from Augsburg. And then, obviously, he scores the opening goal as well from the corner, from the Kamada cross, actually, after a cleared corner. Then, obviously, it's that duo again, isn't it? It's Philip Kostic crossing for the evergreen Andre Silva to nod home his 24th league goal of the season. But, I mean, how did you feel about Augsburg, about Frankfurt's performance there, Rory? Because I actually thought that Augsburg were the better side for long parts of that one.
Yeah, I think it's a bit worrying to see how many chances Augsburg were able to create against what is usually a fairly tight unit, obviously in the shape of their back 5, obviously if you include Trapp in it, or however they play with a 3 or a 5. But yeah, it was very disturbing. They can obviously probably count their lucky stars that the likes of Vargas and Niederlechner weren't quite on their game and able to convert some of these chances. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those. Frankfurt will be glad to get out of the game and obviously 2-0 on the face of it looks like a comfortable win, doesn't it? But as you said, the game probably wasn't a 2-0 scoreline. But Silva, Kostic to Silva, old reliable kind of partnership. You kind of go to what you know to get you through games at this sort of point of the season. Again, they've got 4 cup finals, more presentable looking fixtures than the likes of Wolfsburg and Dortmund, I think. So if they can just put together a run and just say, Adi Hütter, like, can get them going a bit, say, do it for yourselves, like, I'm jumping ship, but, don't do it for me, do it for yourselves because you deserve it on the back of what has been a fantastic season. You've put together 30 games of really nice football. You got to do it for 4 more. 2 wins basically does it in effect for them. I think they need 3 to definitely confirm it. They're 4, yes, so they're 4 points clear of Dortmund as we speak. So yeah, 3 will definitely confirm it. But it'll be interesting. I'm sure there'll be twists and turns in the next 4 matchday weeks. So yeah, we'll have to keep a close eye on it because Dortmund will be sniffing around for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the form of Borussia Dortmund, which we'll talk about now in their 2-0 win over Union, this is leading to a real problem for Wolfsburg and Frankfurt. I mean, they've not put this level of consistency together all season, have they? I mean, obviously the fixtures have been relatively kind. That's one thing we have to say. I mean, they've not beaten any of the big boys during this run, but I mean, this was another very, very comfortable win, I thought, against Union Berlin. I mean, obviously, Ingvartsen was very, very unlucky early on. He had a great effort which hit the underside of the bar. I mean, if that had gone in, we know how solid Union Berlin are defensively, so it could have turned into a tough encounter for them if that happened. But obviously it didn't. Then they get the penalty, which it was one of them where he goes around the keeper. And I think Marco Reus, and they always know that if they go down in that position, they'll get the penalty. Mm-hmm. For me, I think 80% of them probably aren't penalties because the contact is so minimal. And the goalkeepers, they know that the player's going to go down. So they try to take their hands away. But I thought that was a little bit soft. And then they also got a little bit of luck when Haaland kind of smashed it at Luther. And then he kind of hit the rebound again at him. And then the defender on the line hit it against Royce and it went in. So sometimes you need this bit of luck, I mean, they got a lot of luck in this game, really, Dortmund. Would you agree with that, Rory?
Yeah, I would. It's another game, actually, that ended 2-0. That was extremely 2-0-ish, if that's a word. Because obviously, as you mentioned, Union from the start, from kickoff in the first half, they press, They win the ball high up, and as you say, Ingvartsen's curling effort is incredibly unlucky, and they could have been ahead after 13 seconds, I think it was. Would have been probably the quickest goal all season. And then, yeah, I think for the Roy's penalty, so Roy's creates contact where there isn't any, basically. You can see him going down already. He flicks his foot out to make sure it hits Luther, who's come out.
Yeah.
His momentum is obviously taking him into Royce, and Royce is going across him. So obviously, as a keeper, you don't want to put yourself in that situation, but I guess he has to come out to try and rush the striker. But yeah, agreed, completely soft. Very, very unlucky for it to have, stayed a penalty. And again, yeah, Haaland, it's just one of those, and it got a bit of luck. Even the rebound went underneath Luther for Royce to stab home. So yeah, lots of elements of luck behind it. Obviously, Max Kruse, set piece specialist, banging one off the post. Which at first, on watching it, the keeper is like, "Oh, it's completely beating the keeper," and it smashes off the post. But I have to give credit where credit's due. It gets an incredibly important fingertip to push it onto the post. So that's probably one of the best saves I've seen in the last couple of match days, actually. So fair play to him. That's a huge moment in the game. So massive credit to Hitz for that fantastic save. So yeah, another big moment in the game. One big plus for Dortmund, Mr. Jadon Sancho coming back. Thought he looked really fresh, actually, coming off the bench and looked really exciting. Was involved in a lot of positive moves, one of which led to a Gio Reyna shot being cleared off the line. And then, yeah, Dortmund break late on and bag one through Guerrero with a nice finish to finish off 2-0. So very important victory for Dortmund. Bit of a blow for Union in terms of their kind of optimistic kind of chase for the top six is looking a bit more unrealistic now.
Absolutely. And then on to the final game, which was on the Wednesday night kickoff. I mean, it was Werder Bremen 0, Mainz 1. I mean, this was a game that both me and Rory we've been talking about this one as a massive game, because obviously we know that Mainz do have a very difficult fixture list over 4 of the next 5 games, apart from the Hertha Berlin game. And also we know that Werder Bremen are on just a horrible run of form, and they look a desperate side at the minute, really. I mean, obviously, I actually looked today at how many points it took last season for a team to stay up. Werder Bremen got 31 points and they finished 3rd from bottom. Dusseldorf got 30 points and they went down. I remember it was a last day showdown. Obviously, at the moment, Werder Bremen are on 30 points, but they don't look like getting another point at the minute, So they might only end up getting like a few more points to what they got last season. I just think, yeah, I mean, Mainz are just a side that are fighting for everything. Like, you can see that they believe now. They've got the belief. This probably wasn't the best performance of this brilliant run they put together, but I mean, they still created chances. They rode the luck a little bit when Sargent got the disallowed goal at 1-0. I mean, it probably was correct, but, it was a keeper mistake. He dropped the ball, and I think it was Eggestein who kind of kicked it out of his hands a little bit. It was one of those. Do you think that was a correct decision, Rory?
Yeah, just bit of a harsh one, but those decisions often go the way of the keeper, as often as soft as they are. So yeah, just about the right decision for me.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously now Mainz going in the right direction. We'll have to see what they can do. They probably need one more win for me. Obviously Bayern Munich this weekend, which is not the best fixture, but I still believe they've got enough in them to stay up now. They've got the momentum. For me, they just need another 3 points on the board to guarantee both avoiding the relegation playoff and automatic relegation. So we'll have to wait and see. So, okay, so that concludes our review for Matchday 30. Obviously, with the Hertha v Fryeburg game postponed due to the COVID cases. So over to you, Rory, to introduce the predictions for week 31.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, obviously we'll just go through the predictions a bit quicker than we would in a Thursday night just prediction show, because we've been going over things a little bit already. Just to confirm a couple of results in the Mark versus Rory prediction contest. We drew week 29 and Mark won week 30, but as a result of that draw, it means it's now impossible for Mark to catch up, as it's 14-9 at the moment with 4 games to go. So congratulations all round to me on my unassailable.
Fair play. I'll be
I know. I'd love to see how our figures match up to other people doing the predictions. We're probably terrible and quite far down the list. So anyway, we'll go on. Obviously, we're with our predictions, and hopefully everyone can continue to get involved. Obviously, if you're watching live or you're doing it afterwards, obviously comment your predictions in the comment section on the YouTube channel, and we'll do it for of course the last 4 match day weeks, and hope we get some better results, shall we say. We'll see if we can get like maybe a 6 out of 9 or a 7 out of 9, but it's so unpredictable at the moment. It is hard to call. But anyway, on to match day 31, and straight back into it. Friday night football. A lot of these teams haven't had a lot of time to rest, so it'll be interesting to see if there's any rotation in any of these games. But yeah, very quickly then, Friday night, FC Augsburg hosting Cologne. What a big game, obviously, that is for both sides, obviously, now. I think with the momentum from that fantastic win against RB is going to be enough to spur on the away side. So 2-1 to Cologne for me.
Wow, big call, yeah. I've actually gone for 1-1 in this game. I just think that Augsburg don't tend to lose these kind of matches so much, and they know that a defeat will put them right back into a dogfight for me. I mean, obviously, a defeat will put them only 4 points clear of Cologne, which still should probably be enough. But I mean, they don't want to go there, you know. They don't want to get in that position where they're back in a dogfight after being mid-table the whole season, really. So yeah, it's a big game, 1-1 for me.
Yeah, moving on to a very big game with regards to the top 4. So Wolfsburg are hosting Borussia Dortmund. Of course, very interesting. I think with the likes of Weghorst being able to maybe take advantage of the weakness that Dortmund hold at set pieces, especially with Arnold's delivery, they could be in to get a couple of goals, and I think they'll just want to avoid defeat. So I'm going to say 2-2.
Yeah, I've also gone for 2-2 in this game. I think there will be goals. I mean, we've seen that Wolfsburg have not been as good defensively these last few games, but I think a draw would definitely suit Wolfsburg a lot more. I mean, if Wolfsburg were offered a draw right now, they would take it 100%. So 2-2.
Yeah, moving on to Fryeburg hosting Hoffenheim. Probably one of the few games that doesn't have anything riding on it. I put 2-1 to Fryeburg, but that was probably before Hoffenheim turned over Gladbach. So, I mean, I'd probably love to change that, but I'll stick with me. I'll stick to my guns. I'll say 2-1 to Fryeburg.
Yeah, I've gone 2-1 the other way this time. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, this is a classic mid-table battle, really, at the end of the season. But in the Bundesliga, we often see these games tend to be quite entertaining. You know, both sides go ahead and attack. But I've actually gone 2-1 to Hoffenheim. I don't know why, because usually I'm a big fan of Freiburg. I usually tip Freiburg at home, but I've gone for 2-1 to the away side this time.
Very good. Over to Union Berlin hosting Werder Bremen. Obviously, Werder in desperate need for the points. Really in free fall at the moment. Obviously, the sort of danger that Union possess, obviously, from set plays and that aerial threat. I feel like Werder are well equipped to deal with it. It's one of the few things I feel like they can deal with. In spite of that, I'm going to say 2-1 to Union.
Yeah. I mean, this is a game that I think if this was in the Premier League, I'd usually be tipping Werder in this game, because I know that in the Premier League, a lot of teams tend to just give up for the last 5-6 games if they're already up, you know. But I think in the Bundesliga, it doesn't tend to be like that, you know. And I agree. I think that Union will win this game. I've gone for 2-0. But it is a game that Werder have got to be trying to get at least a point from, really, because they've got to stop the rot. And it's not looking good for them. But yeah, 2-0 Werder to Union Berlin.
Okie doke. On to, as you mentioned earlier, Mainz hosting Bayern Munich. Is it going to be the coronation game of Bayern Munich's season? For me, yeah, it's going to be. It'll be close, though, I think. Obviously, Mainz have, thrown a fantastic run together, look dangerous going forward, and have started to clean up the back end of their defence as well. So 2-1 to Bayern Munich, and therefore will be champions.
Yeah, I mean, this is still a big game for Mainz. It's probably a bigger game for Mainz than it is for Bayern, to be honest with you, because I think Bayern, if they don't do it this week, they'll do it next week, I would imagine. But yeah, I think, I do think Mainz will give them a good game. I mean, we saw them win, they went 2-0 up in the Allianz Arena in the reverse fixture before losing 5-2. So yeah, I've gone for 3-2 to Bayern, but I think this could be a topsy-turvy game, to be honest.
Very good. Moving on to Saturday evening, again, a very big game for Frankfurt as they travel away to Bayer Leverkusen. I think, on the face of it, this looks like a tough game, but I actually think this will suit Frankfurt down to the ground, especially the way that Leverkusen will probably come on to them. It will create pockets of space for the likes of Kostic, Kamada, Yunus if he starts, and Silva, of course, to exploit. So I'm actually going to say 3-1 to the away side on this occasion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rory. I do think this game will suit them, and I still think that overall Leverkusen are on a much worse form than than Frankfurt. I mean, Frankfurt, you've got to remember they only lost one game. Aside from that, they're on absolutely brilliant form. They did bounce back against Augsburg despite it not being a great performance. I've actually gone for 2-1 to Frankfurt, but I do think that this is absolutely huge. I think they need to get a win here because I fear that if they don't win this game, they could end up getting pipped to the line by Dortmund, unfortunately. So, yeah, I mean, it is important that they keep the run going and win this game, I think.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Moving on to Sunday's game. So we've got RB taking on Stuttgart. Just for the fact that Stuttgart have been having to chop and change a bit, dealing with injuries that haven't been the same team that we've seen. Unfortunately, RB with zero pressure on them. I think they'll just about get over the line. So 2-1 to the home side.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the strange thing about this one is that it could be all over for Leipzig. I mean, if Bayern get the win, then it will be all over on the title. But they've still got to fight for that second place as well because they're not guaranteed that after 2 games without a win. I think this might not be a great game, to be honest, because as you say, Stuttgart, they've got a lot of injuries and they're on the back of 3 straight defeats now, Stuttgart. So I've actually gone for a 1-0 win for Leipzig, but it might not be a great game to watch this one, I don't think.
Yeah, and the late game on Sunday is Gladbach Bielefeld, so that looks like a very interesting game, obviously with regards to relegation and top 6 football. I think just the way that Bielefeld have been playing and been so gritty and determined to pick up points on a regular basis, whether it's just getting the odd draw here and there, I've got a feeling they'll do it again. So I'm going to say 1-1.
Yeah, I also toyed with the idea of a draw in this game, but I still think that overall Gladbach are attacking probably better than they've done all season in the league, to be honest. I mean, they still played pretty well despite losing against Hoffenheim. Defensively, you can get at them without doubt, but I've still gone for 2-0 here for Gladbach. I just think this is a game that I can't see Bielefeld having like more than 25-30% possession. And yeah, they could potentially get a goal, but I still think that I can't see Gladbach not scoring 2 goals at least in this game, to be honest.
Yeah.
So 2-0 to the home side.
Very good. And that obviously brings a close to match day 31. Looking at the website, it actually says that Hertha Schalke, which is obviously the game that Hertha is supposed to be playing, at the moment it's saying May 12th. So we'll obviously have to see when those games are rearranged. It will be interesting. And there's an awful lot of pressure on her to get through those games and pick up points. But yeah, that brings a close to the show. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope everyone is staying well. Obviously, if you're enjoying this content, enjoying what you see, please do subscribe to the channel. Obviously, myself and Mark are doing these shows twice a week, obviously regularly with the prediction show. We're going to be obviously keeping a close eye on everything as it comes to a close this season. We've got lots of big plans for the end of the season and going into the next. So things are only going to get bigger and better. So yeah, please do subscribe. Comment what you're thinking on the prediction show and let us know your thoughts in general about any feedback, as of course we welcome it. So yeah, over to you, Mark, to finish up.
Absolutely. So remember, guys, to check out our Twitter feed, which is @OverTheBarFB, so you can see everything Bundesliga related on here. I mean, I think we've got everything League One related, Bundesliga related. Of course, as Rory said, we do 2 shows a week now, 1 live show and 1 recorded show. You can see articles related to the Bundesliga as well. I think I've said before, but we've got a very interesting article about Andre Silva that was written about a week ago. So check that one out as well. And yeah, obviously our main site, which is otbfootball.net, which is a centerpiece of our work. You can see everything done at Over the Bar. So that's the end of the review and the predictions for week 31. So it's a massive weekend. Let's hope it's another entertaining weekend of Bundesliga action. So see you on Monday for the review.
See you then.